Hello and welcome to course 4, Bankruptcy and Insolvency of How to Fix Your Credit Free. I'm glad you're here. This is going to be kind of a long one. This is our agenda for this class. What is bankruptcy? What chapter should you file? How should you file? This will be covered today in detail in part 1 of this course. In part 2, we will go over what insolvency is, what it means to be insolvent, and how to claim insolvency. So that is our agenda for today. So what is bankruptcy? Bankruptcy is when your debts exceed your assets and you are unable to meet your financial obligations through any means you've tried. When you get to the point where you are filing bankruptcy, it means that you have very likely been served with one or more lawsuits, your wages are being garnished, or you're facing a bank account levy, which means your bank account is going to be or already is frozen by a creditor. You will want to file bankruptcy in these situations to help avoid further adverse collection action and restore your credit. So, Chapter 7 bankruptcy is the most common chapter that consumers file. This absolves the consumer of most debts, such as revolving credit debts and installment loans. It does not absolve you of tax obligations or student loans unless student loans have been refinanced under another lending entity. Filing involves filling out a packet and submitting it to your local bankruptcy court, then receiving a case number. You do not have an active bankruptcy case without the case number the court provides you with. They will also provide you with a certified letter, including your bankruptcy case number you can use to send to creditors if they contact you. Once you've filed, make sure to pay attention to incoming postal mail and respond with documentation your trustee requests in a timely manner, or your case could be delayed or even dismissed. If your case gets dismissed, you may be able to refile again immediately, depending on why it was dismissed. If you cannot immediately refile, you should be able to after about 180 days or 6 months. During this time, creditors may continue collection action, including refiling lawsuits. If your case goes through the courts and you meet all your deadlines set by the trustee, you will receive a discharge from the bankruptcy court, usually within 6 months, which means your bankruptcy court case is closed. If you happen to forget a couple of creditors you want to include in your bankruptcy, you can do so usually directly with the court, even after discharge. But you'll need to reopen the case, and there are usually fees for this. You should only file bankruptcy if you're facing severe, dire financial circumstances and have no other options. Once you have filed and received a discharge, your bankruptcy will stay on your credit report for up to 10 years, and you cannot file again until after which time it is no longer being reported. Certain states have limitations on the amount of bankruptcy cases that you can actually file in your lifetime. So it's important to know that as well. So Chapter 13 bankruptcy is more common among businesses and consumers who want to retain their business and their assets, but don't have a way to pay their consumer or business financial obligations the way their payments are currently structured. Chapter 13 allows these debtors to reorganize their finances and restructure their accounts payable so that they may continue to operate their businesses, retain their assets instead of forfeiting them to absolve their debts, and continue on with their lives. The local bankruptcy courts must approve this. So you still have to file. The process is a little bit different. But again, if you check with your local bankruptcy court, you'll find information on how to file both Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So again, you will want to call your local bankruptcy court or check their website to find out what you need to do to file bankruptcy in your state. You can also use Upsolve. That is spelled U like umbrella, P like Paul, S as in Sierra, O like Oscar, L like Lima, V like Victor, E like Echo. Upsolve. You can use Upsolve, which is an online service that allows you to file bankruptcy online. Sometimes your state bankruptcy court will offer a way for you to file online, and sometimes you'll need to appear in person. So the easiest way to get answers to how to file is to check your local state bankruptcy court website or call them. So, all right, so part two, insolvency. Insolvency, like bankruptcy, is when you are unable to meet IRS tax obligations due to your debts exceeding your assets. While you cannot file bankruptcy on your back taxes, you can claim insolvency if you are unable to meet your tax obligations due to financial insolvency or the lack of assets to cover your liabilities. So your assets are your possessions that are worth money or have value in some way. Your liabilities are things that you pay for or your debts. To determine insolvency, a lot of individuals and small businesses use a balance sheet to determine whether assets exceed liabilities. If you can liquidate or sell any of your assets to satisfy any of your liabilities, you should do this first. Determining your liabilities is typically easier than your assets at times because these are the debts you're struggling to pay. So you know what your liabilities are. You know what they are, like I said. Remember that assets include any recurring payments or income you receive, like annuities, settlements, or wages. Those are assets. Also, your bank accounts, if you have crypto accounts, PayPal accounts, prepaid debit card accounts, those are all assets. Also, if you currently have an IRS payment plan for back taxes, consider restructuring it to avoid claiming insolvency. So as you can see in the table here, I have some examples of assets and liabilities listed. I'll just kind of go over this really quickly for you here. So some examples that I've included of assets include a vehicle, a home, retirement savings account like an IRA or a 401k, annuities, settlements, wages. This can also include health savings accounts, medical savings accounts. It could include if you happen to have a certificate of deposit, if you have money tied up in escrow accounts. That would be a horrible time to file insolvency, but it can include all of that. Those are all considered assets. Liabilities could be late income tax penalties. So, you know, if you happen to be late filing and paying your income tax liability, you're assessed a penalty by the IRS. That's a liability. Student loans are a liability. You have to make payment on those. Prior year taxes, that's a liability. If you have any unpaid prior year taxes for your income tax, that's a liability. Forgiveness, if you happen to have your student loans forgiven and you haven't paid them down enough, what happens is if there's anything remaining on your student loan balance, that is looked at like income. And if you receive that as income, that means you have to pay income tax. So that would be a liability. So those are just some examples there in that table. So to claim insolvency, you'll want to use this table. I'm going to go ahead and leave that up for, we'll say about another 45 seconds or so. So you can either write it down or take a screenshot of it. And keep in mind, I'm going to move forward, but you can always pause the video as well. But thank you for tuning in to course 4, and stay tuned for course 5, which is coming next Tuesday. That's going to be called Resolution on the How to Fix Your Credit Free series. You can see the class list at autumnlee.online. See you next Tuesday.